on the SEO Weekly 2023 April Review System Update. Product reviews, business reviews, typically kept separately, but apparently Google is mashing it all together. What does that mean? Cyrus Shepard with a fascinating study on how link priority impacts SEO. Basically, if you get the same link and you've got all these different anchors, how does Google decide which is the most important to focus on? A fascinating podcast interview with Kristin, Tynski of Fractal on the Voices of Search, talking about generative AI and how to actually use ChatGPT and OpenAI for your SEO purposes, and an awesome Twitter thread by none other than Tony Hill going through every step he took to recover from a really painful Google algorithm update, like dropped it in holistically, everything that he did. We're talking like 20, 30 little steps, and it all works. When you put in the time, it all works. That and so much more on the SEO Weekly. Welcome back to the SEO Weekly, where queries are weird, advice is controversial, and everything depends. I'm your host, Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and every week I cover everything going on in the world of SEO. We're talking Google updates, blog posts, Bing, Bard, ChatGPT, all that AI goodness, webinars, tools, features, Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it, I'm on it. If you are into this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, share on the socials, leave me a comment. I genuinely appreciate it. Let's dive in. Okay, so the big story this week, Project Magi. What the heck is it? Well, New York Times reported on some internal documents on this past Sunday, all about how back in March, Google kind of freaked out when they found out that Samsung, after 12 years of using Google as their primary search engine for all of their phones and digital devices, were moving over to Bing. Well, possibly. They're still in negotiations. It could go the other way, but this is what kind of got all this AI thing rocking and rolling, because internally, they thought maybe Bing's AI features were the reason for this move from Samsung. So what do they decide to do? Project Magi, which is a brand new search engine product based on AI that's much more personalized. It's still ambiguous. We don't know when it's going to be rolling out, but this feels like a really big deal. Now, Google will also be doing some sort of AI-related features implemented into their normal search engine. And will this ultimately impact SEO? I don't know. Will this impact the whole market? Like, will Google be competing against itself with two different search engines? I don't know. It's really confusing, but it's fascinating, and it potentially will shake up the market significantly. Now, Google has thrown some shots at Bing and indicating with OpenAI that they take AI much more responsibly, that it's dangerous to necessarily just roll it out there without the appropriate safety guardrails in terms of what people are capable of doing with generative AI. In terms of, there's freak out around, building chemicals, like harmful, poisonous, dangerous chemicals using this. It's scary stuff, right? But big deal in the world of SEO. When it will impact us, I don't know. But to the extent that I recorded a lot of this SEO Weekly on Friday, this came out on Sunday, and I was like, okay, this needs to be included. So there you have it. Project Magi. That's the whole feature image, Magi. Moving on. So Google did something really interesting last Wednesday. They launched another algorithm update. This one is called the 2023 April Review System Update. Now, it was rolled out on Wednesday. It's still ongoing. It's not clear when it's going to be completed. But what's really interesting about this update is, historically, the last 2 years when they've rolled out these 6 product review iteration updates, every few months, this one is just review system. It actually combines product reviews and normal business service reviews, which typically have been kept separate by Google. Business reviews are like local SEO reviews for a restaurant or a dentist office or a law firm, things like that, whereas product reviews are actual product reviews. Now, the reviews that they're talking about, it's also not completely clear. Are they talking about, deep dive editorial reviews, or are they talking about, an actual like Google review or a review you leave on Yelp? Well, they do seem to clarify that they're not talking about those third-party reviews on like Yelp. However, you do have some deep dive Amazon reviews. So they did include a new documentation article about writing high quality reviews, all the details, using EEAT to really show your experience and give evidence, but it's not specifically for products or services. It's going to be really interesting to see how this ultimately actually impacts the SERPs. Having worked for a Grade Us, for an online review company in the past for service reviews, having to explain the difference between the two has always been very frustrating because they're different mechanisms for acquiring those reviews. That said, it's, as you look through and you go in a query and you search for, best, swimming pools, for instance, the top 10 lists, if they are just thin regurgitations, those count as review content. Any sort of comparison pages count as review content. Any deep dive editorials or affiliate, blog posts count as review review content. So everything will be impacted. I'm very interested to see how this plays out. In fact, I talked about it a little bit more when I joined Nikki Hallowell and Nicole Ponce on the Semrush Twitter Spaces last week, and we talked about the March core update and kind of what the fallout was about that. And literally like hours later, this review update comes out. So and keep my eyes peeled. Let me know in the comments if this is something that's impacted you, or if you're already seeing any impact, or how you're thinking about review content, because it's very interesting to me. Last week, Google also released their 2022 web spam report. So how they use SpamBrain to remove 50 times more linky spam sites and 10 times more sites affected that have been hacked. It's great and everything. Unfortunately, with generative AI, it feels like we're going to continue to see more spam thrown our way, and I hope that Google can keep up. I mean, I feel like I've had good experiences on search in the context of spammy content and crappy content, but it's going to keep coming. What do you think? Have you been affected by spam? Have you been hacked? It's not fun when it happens to you. One interesting move that came up last week is Google announced that video thumbnails that appear in search results are actually only going to show up if the video is the main content on the page. If it's a longer article with just a video inserted in there, you're not going to see the video content in the thumbnail. It's only if it's like YouTube. Well, not only YouTube, obviously other ones, but isn't it interesting that works for YouTube and not a lot of other sites? It's pretty much the main complaint. And to be honest, I don't 100% agree with the move because, if you want content to be helpful, sometimes it is helpful to go in and see visual video content, not just a written blog post. So I don't know if I agree with Google. We'll see what happens. Obviously, they've done lots of testing, but that is rolling out and starting to happen. So it's cool to see that there's a little bit of movement on Bard, still separate from Google, but product principal Jack Krawczyk made an announcement about how they've added a new experiments update. So as they iterate on Bard and make it better, we'll get to see some of those details. One thing that he said on Twitter is he pointed out that they added more advanced levels of Palm, an advanced algorithm. And what that does is it allows logic and improvements for like coding and some really cool things, and math, obviously. So like word problems, Bard should be better at understanding how to do those and not make like the really bad mistakes. I haven't had a chance to test it yet, but I'm very curious if you have given it some complex math problems, and how is it doing? Because before it wasn't doing so high. Still holding out hope that Bard delivers some real value and catches up to ChatGPT at some point. So on the Voices of Search podcast, Kristin Tynski of Fractal joined Tyson Stockton to talk all about best practices for utilizing generative AI for SEO. What's been really cool with Kristin is on LinkedIn, she's been really getting into Python and creating these tools to access the GPT-3 API to do more advanced parameter messaging with creating prompts. And so she kind of goes into these details of, how you can kind of optimize your prompt sequencing and prompt chaining, basically putting different prompts together in a row to get more specific and more advanced knowledge, and really leveraging GPT for any knowledge gaps that you have. Maybe not knowledge gaps, but trying to figure things out and troubleshoot using the system, including like thinking of other APIs and use cases. Really interesting two-part podcast with Kristin and Tyson there. NLP, natural language processing, statistics, analytics, machine learning, SEO. How useful is it all together? Well, Jess Peck wrote this fantastic article for OnCrawl where she dives deep. And the thing that I love about Jess's writing, she's a data scientist. She's not like, BSing. She knows like how these things work, the coding, the data, the analysis that goes on behind it. And so she breaks it down really effectively in terms of how you can use this, whether it's for keyword research or keyword mapping or classification of intents, or really interesting stuff about content relevancy, like we've been talking about with OrbitWise at iPullRank, and how you can turn words into value numbers and do the vectors, identify how closely some words are related, so you can model your topics, make sure that the content that's on your website is relevant to whatever you're trying to rank for. She goes deep into all this stuff. Some of it's technical, but she writes really humorously and in a way that's easier to understand if you have kind of no frame of reference for a lot of this stuff. Anyway, check out that article. Kind of in the world of AI, not exactly, yes it is, but it isn't, but just does a fantastic job. In the world of SEO Twitter, Antoine Arapret put together a really great thread all about developing an SEO roadmap. So basically how you can come up with lots of different SEO ideas, kind of rank them in terms of how much they'll move the needle, check with IT to make sure they're not too complex to implement, and then do documentation, check in with stakeholders, and ultimately get these different mini projects across the line. He maps it out way better than I can articulate, but it was a good thread nonetheless. Definitely follow him. Great follow on Twitter. So we talk a lot about EEAT and different SEO tactics that you can do to improve your rankings, but ultimately it's all a holistic process, and that's proven by Tony Hill. Tony put together a fantastic Twitter thread last week where he shared that he was hit so hard for one of his sites back in May of 2022, but over the course of almost a full year, doing one thing after another, he's been able to recover. And with the most recent March core update, bam, he's really back to where he wants to be. So, in his, initially it was 20 things that he did. He added like another 10 when someone was asking about technical SEO, but that included things like adding lots of new subcategories, which made breadcrumbs deeper for many articles, creating an Ask the Expert section, create a contributors page, added jump links within articles to get to the best parts faster, cut out lots of fluffy parts. I mean, it just goes on and on, all of these things that he did, and it all makes sense. It's all the little things that add up over time to make a high quality, high value website that Google finds helpful and worth ranking. So check out that thread, go through each of those things, and maybe do that for your own site, and you'll see if you shoot up the rankings for your target keyword. Robots.txt files, they can help your visibility and they can destroy your organic search. I gotta admit, I'm so proud of my colleague, Michael Glavik. He put together his first post on iPullRank's blog and wrote a massive deep dive. We're talking 3,000 words, but don't worry, we've got jump links at the top, like I mentioned with Tony's tweet thread, so you can dive to what matters. But he covers everything from wildcards and directives all the way to different use cases and what you want to avoid for trailing slashes or case sensitivity or conflicting directives. Everything you can use to make sure that you are on top of your robots.txt file. We got a really fun mid-journey delivered feature image, but check out Michael's post. And if you want to hear more from Michael, he was actually on Rankable a few weeks ago talking all about what it's like to be a T-shaped SEO. Very cool. Really Cool case study from Michael Bachenek over on Ahrefs blog, all about Healthline's content anatomy. So this was updated last week, and he goes into all the different ways that this massive niche healthcare site has generated so many millions of clicks. A couple of interesting callouts that were going around on SEO Twitter that was really interesting to me is the use of meta keywords, which does not impact rankings, but it is a real cool way to internally tag topical hierarchy and send that data layer to analytics and track engagement. And then just think about the ways that if you have that categorized effectively, you could then improve your content, improve your internal linking, all sorts of insights just using meta keywords to tag your content. Really cool. Really, really cool. Another thing is he talked about EEAT and just some of the ways that they show their authority and expertise in terms of how pages were created, who edited them, what medical expert they reference. So all of those are built in to the way they build all these templates and then kind of guide them the templates based on search intent. Really cool case study, really cool website that seems to be doing EEAT effective and well. And one other note I'll call out, serious FOMO, but a bunch of influencers in the SEO space got a book for beginner's SEO guide that was published by Ahrefs, and it looks beautiful. So kudos to you guys for putting that, really, they always do some really creative marketing campaigns at Ahrefs. Killing it. Selective link priority? What the heck is that? Well, Cyrus Shepard of Zippy put together a really cool experiment. Basically, the idea is if you have multiple links on a page that point to the same place and they use different anchor texts, how do you know which one Google will index, which one matters for the anchor text? Because that might impact your keywords. It's not like a big needle mover in your SEO strategy, but it could be a tiebreaker. So the other consideration is, what if you have images? Now, Google does take all this into consideration, but for the test, what Cyrus did is he went on Google Search Console and he looked at pages that weren't linked across the internet and tested out between two examples, one that had, like a link and then a second link, compared to a link and an image, and looked at what came up in Google Search Console. And then he did one with like 2 links and an image, and then he did one with like 2 links and an image and another link. Ultimately, the big takeaway from this experiment was whatever the anchor text is of your first link and the alt text for your image is what typically gets indexed by Google. It's not definitive. There are workarounds that other SEOs have claimed on Twitter that they found, but in thinking about your keyword strategy and what your specific article is trying to target and the multiple links and anchor text for that first link, make sure the anchor text really uses the keywords that you are targeting. Same with the image alt text. Really cool experiment. If you try it yourself, let me know how it goes for you in the comments. Super dynamic post by Abby Gleason on the Wix blog, all about using emerging trending keywords in your SEO strategy and how to identify those trending keywords. Abby points out, typically we always focus on big search volume keywords, which is always high competition and not always the best strategy. Sometimes there are opportunities to jump on trends that are relevant to your industry or business, being the first mover, the first person to put something out there and capitalizing on it because people are looking for it. There are eyeballs, and then ultimately you are the definitive source, hopefully, on that keyword over time. So Abby goes through ways to pay attention to it, whether it's just like, things that are coming up in the news or social listening, and then the tools that you can use to jump to find these trending keywords. All in all, a really great strategy and great methodology to identify them by Abby in this post. It's really comprehensive, lots of specific tactics. And then I got to throw it in there, if you want to track the rankings of these keywords, exact science. iPullRank's tool is moving out of beta for rank tracking. We actually have, I think this is the first time that I'm announcing it, ChatGPT enabled keyword categorization. It's like a week or two away, and I'm super excited about it. Imagine being able to take all of your keywords, spitting them into the rank tracker, and then having that categorize those keywords by persona, taxonomy, topic cluster, need state, and then being able to segment and analyze your rank tracking all by those keywords. It's so freaking cool. Well, it's here. It's also going to have the content relevancy feature metric, so you can actually look at your keywords and see if your targeted URLs are relevant, like mathematically relevant to what Google is looking for. So Exact Science, check that out. Try it out for free. There's a 7-day free trial. You can try out for 30 keywords. It is in the description. I'm super excited about this tool. I've been playing around with it and already like finding a ton of low-hanging fruit just by looking at the 11 to 20 rankings and then segmenting by my personas and then making some tweaks to the content, Tony Hill style. Jump on that. Really cool and great article by Abby. That's it. Another episode of the SEO Weekly in the books. Thank you so much for watching through all that good stuff. As always, my name is Garrett Sussman of iPullRank. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, share on the socials, leave a comment. I really, really do appreciate it. Other than that, I will catch you next week.